This is my week 6 teaching resource for PN 4036 on the hyperbolic paraboloid. So here you can see the SolidWorks model that I made, and I'm just going to show you a few views of the hyperbolic paraboloid before we move on to how I made it. So the first step was I made a box on my top plane, and I square dimensioned it to be 500 by 500 on both sides. So my next step is going to be to make two planes that are both parallel to my first chosen plane, which for me was my top plane. So as you can see here, I measured out distances here, and they are all parallel from my top plane. The distance that we choose doesn't really matter, but it's just the important part that they are parallel. And the distance that we choose is going to have a resultant factor on the final shape of our hyperbolic paraboloid. So for my next step, I went back and I looked straight at my three planes, and then I made two sketches. So in my first sketch here, I drew 2 points on either end. They're diagonal from each other, and they're on the same plane. And then my following sketch was 2 more points, which is on the second plane, and they're also diagonal. So if I was to jump a few steps forward to the very end, again, if you keep looking at the point here in the middle on the left, you'll see that that is going to translate into the high point on my finished hyperbolic paraboloid, and my low point, which is on plane 1, is going to be down here. So then I just used the 3D sketch function, and I connected up my different points that are on the different planes. And then my next step was, you can't see it here, but I also drew another line that connected in the opposite direction. So this is a good view here to see it. And then I evenly spaced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I did 10 spacings running across here. And then on my next sketch, I drew in my lines. So you can see, if I go into the plan, that all of them lines actually are parallel, even though when you change around the views, it gets a little bit confusing to look at, and you can see that they still are parallel even though they don't look it. And then my next sketch was drawn in the same points, just in the opposite direction. So you can see here how it all lines up together. And then to finish it off, I used a boundary surface tool here on SolidWorks, and I knitted the surface together, and then I thickened it. And then if we were to go back up here and just hide all the sketches, then you can see that this is the shape that we started out with, and that's going to be our hyperbolic paraboloid.